Well, this episode of the podcast is sponsored by Delta Leaf Labs. Because you know what? It's almost springtime. And we all know what that means. We have to start thinking about which seeds we're going to pop this season. What are we going to grow? And we also have to start thinking about how we're going to save time and money during that grow. Which means that you need to start using the plant DNA sex testing kit that Delta Leaf Labs has. They make it really easy to take a sample from your plant. Doesn't matter how young. You can even take the sample from the round cotyledon leaves, the first two little leaves that come out of a seedling. You can take a sample from that. You send it into the lab, and a couple of days after they get it, you're going to know whether you've got a male or a female plant to work with. So go over to deltaleaflabs.com and order your testing kits today. And at checkout, use promo code IMGS10 to get 10% off of your order. Also, Club Enigma Los Angeles is going to have a cannabis wellness and consumption event on Saturday, March 30th. And that's going to be from 2 to 6 p.m. That sounds like it's going to be a really fun way to spend a Saturday afternoon with like-minded people, enjoying cannabis. So go over to clubenigmala.com to find out more about the event, to find out about ticket prices. And if you're a cannabis company that wants to be a vendor at this event, you can send an email to clubenigmala@gmail.com. All right, now let's get started. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to the In My Grow Show. I am your host, Alex. And I want to thank you once again for taking the time to listen. In a little bit, I'm going to talk about the Predator of the Week, which is going to be the green lacewing. But first, before I forget, because I forgot last week, I want to thank a longtime listener, because a few episodes back, when I had a conversation with Derek Gilman, when I edited that whole episode together, the levels were completely off during that interview with him. And, I was yelling, but you could barely hear him. It was, it didn't sound good, man. But I didn't realize it when I put it out, And one of you guys pointed it out to me, you just told me that, the sound was really bad. You couldn't even get through it. So the first thing I did when I got home from work was I jumped on the computer and just re-edited that whole segment of it. Luckily, I knew enough about editing so I could fix it that it sounded better. Because I spent a lot of time on this show, putting it together, and I want to make sure you guys enjoy listening to it. If it doesn't sound right, just let me know and I'll see what I can do to fix it. So if you tried to listen to that episode, the first day it went up and it just didn't sound good, go back and listen to it now. It sounds a lot better. Alright, now that that's out of the way, I'm going to move on to the strain of the week. And today it's going to be the Granddaddy Purple, or the Granddaddy Perp. And the internet says that it was introduced in 2003 by Ken Estes. The Granddaddy Purple, or GDP, is a famous indica cross between the Purple Urkel and the Big Bud. Now, the Granddaddy Perp is a heavy indica, which means that it doesn't take very much to give you some couch lock, to really just kind of sedate you. Which isn't always a bad thing, because apparently it's really good at fighting pain, stress, nausea, and muscle spasms, as well as a few other things. So when you see it at your local dispensary, or your cousin is holding some of it, pick some up, it'll help you sleep. Alright, now let's talk a little bit about what's going on the cannabis front line. So I found this news story over at the Hemp Industry Daily. And the title of it says, Federal Appeals Court to Review Idaho Hemp Seizure. So it turns out that a Colorado CBD company called Blue Sky Scientific was transporting something like 7,000 pounds of industrial hemp through Idaho, and the cops seized it because they said that they were transporting cannabis, like marijuana, the drug form of it. But the company's fighting to get all that product back because they're claiming it's all industrial hemp. And as per under the new farm bill, it's totally legal for them to transport through Idaho. So the cops are saying it's going to take them a while to test all those plants to make sure they really are hemp. In the meantime, this product is probably sitting somewhere in the cops' custody, just deteriorating in quality. And that's 7,000 pounds. So this case is going to be a pretty good test for that new farm bill. Man, so I feel really bad for that company, Blue Sky, because it says here that they bought the hemp from Boone's Ferry Berry Farms in Hubbard, Oregon, and that another 7,000-pound shipment that took a different route to get to Colorado arrived there safely. I guess the lesson there is don't be driving your shit through Idaho. But I'm sure they're going to be able to get it all back, right? It's hemp. It's the new farm bill. They're just being dicks. They can't accept, I don't know, the hemp, the whole culture of it. I don't know what they're doing out in Idaho. Anyways, moving on. So next I want to talk about a story that I read earlier in the week from Wired magazine. And the title reads, "Forget growing weed, make yeast spit out CBD and THC instead." And it's written by Matt Simon. And the story's been all over the news. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but I want to talk a little bit about it. Because apparently they've figured out how to use yeast to grow THC and CBD. So yeah, some chemical engineers over at UC Berkeley. And one of the co-authors of this paper that was written in Nature is Dr. Jay Keasley. And the article goes on to say how they've learned how to make the yeast make CBGA. And the cannabinoid CBGA is the mother to other cannabinoids like THC and CBD. Those two start off as CBG or CBGA. And as the plant matures, that CBG just gets converted into THC or CBD or other cannabinoids. They figured out how to make the yeast grow the CBGA, and from there it wasn't very hard to make it turn into THC and CBD. Are you with me? Did I confuse you with all the alphabet? I kind of confused myself there for a bit. But anyways, getting back to the story, yeah, so these scientists have figured out how to make yeast make these cannabinoids. Which sounds good for research because they can just make whatever cannabinoid they want to study it specifically instead of having to grow the plant and then extract all of the cannabinoids and then just separate out what they need to. And I'm sure this is really going to change how the industry makes concentrates. But how does this affect me, the grower? Not really too much. I'm a flower guy. I'm still going to grow cannabis. To me, it's not just about growing for recreation or for growing my medicine, but it's also very therapeutic to be in the garden and have your hands in the soil. You know, I just love it. So good on UC Berkeley, man. Life in the future. All right, and now let's talk a little bit about biological predators, mostly the predator of the week, which is the green lacewing. Yes, that's right. And so before I start to talk about lacewings themselves, I just want to talk a little bit about using biological predators in our gardens. There's a few things we have to take into consideration. It's a good thing to start using them as soon as you start your garden or as soon as you see any signs of a pest, because it is going to take them a few days to a week to kind of get established. Something else is that if you're going to use biological predators, you're going to have to tolerate a certain level of pests, because pests have to be present in order for the predators to have something to eat and for them to want to stick around. If you're looking for total eradication of a pest, biological predators aren't your answer, because as the number of prey get less and less, because the predators are doing such a great job, they're going to start to run out of food. And once that happens, they'll go off and they'll fly away or crawl away looking for more food somewhere else. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about using biological predators in your gardens. Okay, now the green lacewing. Worldwide, there are about 1,200 different species. And they're considered great general predators, which means that they will eat a lot of different kinds of pests, such as aphids, caterpillars, mites, whiteflies, scale, mealybugs, and their eggs, and most other soft-bodied insects. Now, the adults aren't really that hard to identify. They're usually going to have light green bodies with long antennae, and they're going to have golden eyes. The wings are going to be long and lacy and veiny, kind of see-through. Now, the adults aren't the real predators here. Once again, it's the larvae that are the true killers. As a matter of fact, the adults are vegetarian. They're going to eat pollen, nectar, honeydew from other pest insects. So we just want the adults to hang out long enough for them to lay eggs, so those hungry larvae can hatch and take care of our pest problem for us. Now, the lacewing species that I'm able to get out here is the Chrysoperla rufilabris. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And once again, I'm really lucky the insectary Rincon vitova is literally like 4 miles away from my house. And once again, those lacewing larvae are really going to go after most worm pests like caterpillars, budworms, cabbage loopers. Also, they're going to go look for aphids, spider mites, and their eggs or their larvae too. And the mated female will lay about 10 to 30 eggs a day, and the eggs are laid on these silk hairs or stalks. They kind of look like balloons on strings, and they do that so when the larvae hatch, they don't eat each other. And that's also why the lacewing is going to lay those eggs close to where pest eggs are. And when those larvae are going to hatch, they're going to be kind of a grayish brown, and they're only going to be predators for about 2 to 3 weeks. After that, they're going to cocoon themselves up individually so they can turn into an adult lacewing. But during those 2 to 3 weeks, a single larvae can eat about 250 leafhopper nymphs or 400 aphids. They can eat something like 11,000 spider mites, so they can really do some damage if you have a pest issue. Now the temperature has to be at least 60 degrees Fahrenheit for the lacewings, both the larvae and the adults, to do their thing. But the warmer it gets, the more active they get. And some of the things that I'll plant in my outdoor garden to keep the lacewings around and interested are things like sunflowers, or even corn, because they really like that the corn pollen on top. Now I know that there's also specific flower seed mixes that you can buy to plant in your garden to attract not just lacewings but other beneficial predators to your garden. So maybe that's something you can think about doing, especially if you have an indoor grow operation. Now as far as lacewing packaging, the ones that I typically use are lacewing eggs that are glued to a card, and I'll just cut that card into smaller squares and hang those squares around different spots in my garden. But you can get them from the insectaries in all of their life cycles, whether it's live larvae or the live adults. Just depends on what you need. One thing I do have to mention is ants. I learned this the hard way, but ants will eat all of the eggs that are glued onto a card. Okay, so you have to pay attention to any kind of ant population or any ant colonies. You should take care of those before you start introducing any kind of eggs, because ants will also drive away lacewing larvae, because the ants will protect any pest that's making the sugary honeydew, like aphids or whiteflies will, and it'll make it harder to control those pests. So that's just some advice I have if you choose to use green lacewings in your gardens. If you go over to inmygrow.com and type in the search bar green lacewings, an article will come up that I wrote that has a lot more information than what I just read to you. And it's going to have a couple of pictures so you get an idea of what it's going to look like and what the eggs look like too. Well, mis amigos, my friends, it's a short one today. If you have any questions or comments about this episode, you can find me on Instagram at inmygrow, or send me an email, that is inmygrow@gmail.com. Next time, the predator of the week is going to be the praying mantis. I love those things. They're fun to watch. Now remember, if this show has educated you, entertained you, or even given you a little escape from your day, and you can afford to help the show financially, go over to patreon.com/inmygrowshow and leave a donation. All amounts are welcome. And I use that money to help put the show together. Pay for different hosting fees, and pay for equipment. If you don't want to leave a donation, you can go over to inmygrow.com. Click on the Support the Show tab and buy a t-shirt. Or even easier, before you go shopping on Amazon, click on the link in the show notes, because that'll let them know that we sent you and we get a commission. Now if you can't support the show financially, don't worry about it, I get it, but here's how you can help. Subscribe to the website, subscribe to the podcast, and then tell 3 other people about the show. Real easy, real simple. Well, brothers and sisters, I'm going to get on out of here. I love you all very much. And remember to always grow, learn, and teach.